couldn't have been more prepared and ready to go, and just knew everything about what her character was, and was just delightful. And it was a strange thing. We became very friendly, and she took my wife at that time and myself to dinner a number of times, 4 or 5 times. She loved to take us to Chasen's for dinner. And Joan Crawford got cast on the show, and she was wonderful to work with and so forth. But from then on, I never heard from Betty Davis.
Oh, my goodness.
On one time again, never could contact her. She didn't accept my phone calls. And that was a genuine feud. No one that I know knows the reason why those ladies did not get along. But I can tell you this, the feud was genuine, and I don't think Joan Crawford harbored nearly the resentment that Betty Davis did about their relationship, whatever that may have been. But they didn't like each other, and they go to great extremes to prove that. So it was part of the things one of the things that I was able to observe firsthand in my career was that the effects of that feud between those two great ladies, and whatever it was, I'm sure it should have been ignored, but obviously it wasn't. So
one of my favorite stars, and actually he became a star of the show for a couple of years, and I remember it all came together in one episode where, to me, it had 2 heavyweights in one episode, the lady of the house, Charles Bickford and Myrna Loy. What a great piece of writing, Jim. That was my favorite episode.
It was wonderful. It was wonderful, and they were wonderful in it. And of course, I think they had worked together a number of times in major motion pictures before. Because when Charles Bickford came on the set and came to work with us as the owner of the ranch, he brought with him such a vast sea of experience. You know, he'd been in pictures since the silent days, and he was such an effective actor. And you know, anytime you work with a man of that caliber, you learn something from him every day that you carry with you for the rest of your life. And I certainly did. He was a wonderful man and a wonderful friend, and he, as you probably know, he passed away on the show. We worked very late on a Friday night, and he had pneumonia, which none of us knew, and he sat there and finished his work. He finished all of his scenes, everything he had to do, and went home and passed away on Sunday morning. Mm-hmm. So, I know the tenor of the show, of course, changed when he came aboard. I can't think of anybody better to come in after Lee J. Cobb than Charles Bickford. And frankly, I liked where the show was going when they brought Don Quine and Sarah Lane in there as his grandchildren, and the whole Granger, family. And I really liked those seasons when they were on, all of them. And another one of my favorite Bickford episodes was the one Pernell Roberts was in, The Long Way Home. Another one was a great morality play, great message. Well, when Bickford and Sarah Lane and Don Quine came on, they changed the face of the show naturally because they were new people, but they brought with them a great deal of experience and knowledge and attractiveness in all of them that it was very valuable to the show, and those were great seasons. We were just couldn't have been luckier to have the succession of all ranch owners that we had. Most people don't remember, but when Lee J. Cobb left, John Daner came in and played the role of Morgan Starr, who was the new ranch owner, and we had some fine, quite electric episodes that he was starred in and involved in. He was a very vital, physical kind of a guy, and a fine actor, and brought a great presence to the show. And for whatever reason, this is something I was never privy to. I don't know why he left. Maybe he didn't like it. Maybe they didn't like him. I don't know. Anyway, at any rate, he left the show, and then Charles Bickford came on, and that was another delight. And it lasted 3 years or whatever it was, the 3 seasons he was on. And then we got, of course, the great combination of John McIntyre and Jeanette Nolan, who were man and wife and often worked together in all kinds of things, lot of people don't realize they were original members of the Mercury Theater, Orson Welles Mercury Theater, and they were involved in the War of the Worlds radio show that had such a great effect on all of America and all of the world. Everybody thought the Martians were really coming.
Yeah, John McIntyre was like
done so well that they had people believing it and practically suicidal at the idea of being invaded from outer space. You know.
McIntyre was like everybody's grandfather, you know. He just had that persona. Yeah.
Well, he could certainly play that, and he could play villains with great skill and presence, and he could also play comedy. He could be very funny. So he was an all-around wonderful actor, and his wife Jeanette Nolan was an immensely talented actress. She could play any type of female character you could possibly imagine, from a vamp to a bag lady. You know? And she had that ability, and that she was just a chameleon, in that she could assume all these characters. And we were very lucky to have them. And then, of course, in the 9th season, we had Stuart Granger, the great English actor. So, and that was quite legitimate, because at that time, the time period we were dealing with, which goes from 1865, at the end of the Civil War, on up for the next 20 years, about to 1885 or 1890, 25 years, that was the period when all of the Westerns that we've seen on television, they're all set into that period, because that was when the West was truly wild, and there was all kinds of conflict and a lot of lawlessness, I'll say it all right, lawlessness that had to be dealt with. So it's kind of and as Richard Farnsworth used to say, it's our American Camelot. It's our period of history that everyone liked to look back at, because the values were black and white. The morality was black and white. We knew what was good and what was bad, and we got a great catharsis as an audience from watching good triumph over evil again and again, as it will in life and in the world in time.
Talk about the cowboy way.
Well, the cowboy way is a way of life that is still very vital and alive in our country. There are real cowboys out there working as we speak, and rounding up the cattle and tending to them and doctoring them and branding them, and not to put too fine a point on it, but castrating them if it's necessary, and doing all the things that have to be done with cattle and with a herd of cattle to make them profitable. And my hat is off to them. But from a human interaction point of view, I heard this quote, and I don't know who came up with it. I think it's anonymous, but a fellow named Sonny Melchior told me about this many years ago in an AA meeting, which incidentally I haven't had a drink in, it'll be 30 years in October, and I credit him and many other people that I worked with in Alcoholics Anonymous with my success in that endeavor.
Congratulations.
But, at any rate, Sonny said he had heard in another AA meeting someone say the principles of life, and this is the cowboy way as far as I'm concerned, consists of the following saying: if it's not yours, if it's not true, don't say it. If it's not yours, don't take it. And if it's not right, don't do it. And if you can live by those principles, you probably won't get in much trouble.
Amen to that.
Let's go out to our own backyard, Redlands. Diana, you're on the DNA radio show with the Virginian, James Drury.
Hi.
Hi there.
I'm so glad to be able to talk to you, Mr. Drury.
Well,
most of my questions have been asked and answered by you, but mostly I really want to say is I want to really get on my knees and thank you from the bottom of our heart for opening yourself up to the public, to your old fans and new fans with these new DVDs coming out, for answering and making yourself available where